Mr. Chair, House Bill 12 received a favorable with amendment recommendation in the Land Use and Ethics Subcommittee. As amended, House Bill 12 establishes the Transit-Oriented Development (TOD) Capital Grant and Revolving Loan Fund and its purpose, funding sources, and authorized uses. Move the amendments.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the bill's before us is amended. Is there a motion?
Move the bill.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the bill as amended? Delegate Jacobs.
So I got correspondence from some constituents that are concerned about this funding affecting the Transportation Trust Fund. So are these funds associated with Transportation Trust Fund that funds this?
Let's find out from the subcommittee chairman.
Sorry, repeat that, sorry.
He wants to know.
TTF funds, are we taking any money from the Transportation Trust Fund?
Good question, and the answer is, Patrick can correct me, but I believe
Pardon me.
the answer is, I believe, no. We are funding this through a $5 million, at least $5 million annually, but it's coming out of the general fund, is my understanding. Patrick, is that correct?
It does not say it's coming out of TTF, so that
Okay.
would be my guess.
So it's not TTF, it's general fund revenues.
So there is no time in the bill that, and even going forward, that there would be any funding coming out of TTF.
I think that it's silent.
It could come out of TTF.
Yeah, it could, yeah. I think it's silent on whether or not, yeah, that would be appropriate going forward.
It's not prohibited.
And I will say that, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, that while the $5 million comes from the general fund, the TTF is tapped in fiscal year 2024 and in future years to administer the fund. Is that right, Patrick?
That's what's in the bill now. That's why I'm asking
Yeah.
about the TTF fund.
I don't think that changed with the amendments. Yeah, I don't think we changed that with the amendment. So my understanding is that we're talking about okay, I'm correct, okay. As always, Delegate Jacobs, I'm correct. So it is a mandated $5 million from the general fund, but the administrative costs do come out of the TTF.
Thank you.
Yes. Push your button, please. Yes, Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to slow things down, but could you just briefly explain what, I know you said what the amendments did, but just maybe a few more words than that?
I'm happy to. I have a whole list of descriptions of amendments that I was dying to read off. So now, here we go. Are y'all ready? Amendment number one, expands the definition of TOD to include a mix of structures that are part of a development plan involving property adjacent to a planned or existing transit corridor. Number two, it substitutes the Smart Growth Cabinet within DOT as the state entity that partners with the local jurisdiction to designate the TODs. So it's a new group. It specifically includes funds from the Complete Streets program as state development and infrastructure for which TOD may apply. It establishes that a TOD designation applies for 10 years, and it's subject to a 10-year extension at that point, so you have to reapply. And then it also substitutes the Smart Growth Cabinet instead of MDOT as the entity responsible for establishing eligibility requirements and scoring standards. And then it requires MDOT, this is the second to last amendment, in collaboration with DHCD to support the award recipients by providing technical assistance for any studies or code changes or anything they need to do. And then it reduces the fiscal impact. This originally came in as a $10 million mandated appropriation from the general fund, and the amendment turned into a $5 million appropriation.
Delegate Terraza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you say again what the first one did?
Yeah, so it changes the definition of TOD in the bill. It expands it to include one more thing, and that thing is a mix of structures that are part of a development plan involving property adjacent to a planned or existing transit corridor.
What does that mean?
That's a good question. I can,
Adjacent land is new.
say it again?
The adjacent land is new.
Oh, I see. The new part of it is that it's adjacent to a transit corridor instead of within the transit corridor. We added the word adjacent.
Oh, you just added the, okay.
Yeah.
I thought the first one was a transit-oriented development, and the second piece was a transit corridor.
No.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I misunderstood
Yeah.
that part. And then, when you said designation lasts for 10 years, who's designating it?
The smart growth sub-cabinet.
So even if you have a TOD designation by the county, you would still need to have a state designation?
Yes.
Okay,
The
good.
state,
All right.
yes, the state entity would partner with the local jurisdictions to designate the TODs.
Okay, but TOD is put on as a zoning,
Right.
so they're not partnering on that, they're partnering on the designation they would give.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we vote? Let's try a roll call on this. We already adopted the amendments, didn't we? Yeah, this is on the bill, as amended.
Vice Chair Stein? Yes. Delegate Holmes? Aye. Delegate Love? Yes. Delegate Jacobs? No. Delegate Otto? No. Delegate Silberti? No. Delegate Terrassa? Yes. Delegate Ruth? Yes. Delegate Long? Yes. Delegate Allen? Yes. Delegate Noraki? No. Delegate Morgan? No. Delegate Addison? Yes. Delegate Baker? No. Delegate Ziegler? Yes. Delegate Foley? Yes. Delegate Guyton? Yes. Delegate Davis? Yes. Delegate Lehman? Yes. Delegate Stewart?
Yes.
Delegate Boyce? Yes. Delegate Healy? Yes. Chairman?
Chairman votes yes. So what is that? That's,
17.
yeah, 17-6. The bill carries. House Bill 34, Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and ladies and gentlemen, bear with me on this. As you can see, this is House Bill 34, so it's been here with us for a while. This bill has received a report favorable with amendment from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. As amended, the bill requires a district court within 60 days after final resolution of failure to pay a rent proceeding that did not result in a judgment of possession to shield, not seal, to shield all related court records. The bill also authorizes a court to shield all court records relating to the failure to pay a rent proceeding that results in a judgment of possession on a motion of a tenant and if specified requirements are met. In addition, the bill prohibits a landlord from increasing rent solely because of a judgment has been entered against the tenant in a failure to pay a rent action case. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 provides for the applicability of certain prohibitions under the bill. Amendment number 3 provides for the shielding rather than the sealing of certain court records associated with the failure to pay rent action. It also alters the standard to shield certain court records upon shielded records under certain circumstances, provides if a judgment for possession is entered in a proceeding in which a tenant asserted rent escrow as a defense, that the district court may shield only court records related to the judgment for possession, provides that in order to shield records may not affect the action in which the appeal is pending, and alters the contents of a certain form required under the bill. Amendment number 4 provides for a prospective application under provisions of the bill. Move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Before I recognize Delegate Terrazza and Foley, I just want to say that I participated in a Zoom meeting with Judge Morrissey and the subcommittee chairman, and I have to say I was very impressed with how helpful and useful Judge Morrissey was, and basically to encapsulate the conversation, he was communicating to us the legal standards that the court would look for, and it was a very what can I say? It was very positive communication. I think the subcommittee chair would agree with that. Delegate Terraza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So two things. What is the difference between seal and shield?
I'm sorry? I'm sorry. Oh, so to shield is what we have now. To shield means that you don't have to, let me do it the other way. To seal, a judge can seal it. In order for it to be open, then you have to go back to the original judge that sealed it. If the judge is no longer on the bench, then you have to go through a separate judge to get that sealed record open. To shield has the same type of, the same protection requirements, but you don't have to go through the first judge to get access to it.
So,
And Matthew, if you want to expand upon that, Matthew, if you like.
Certainly. So Delegate Terrasa, functionally, shielding and sealing, the end result is the same. It really comes down to the court processes for reopening the shielded records versus the sealed records. Administratively, it's just simpler for the court to open up the records again.
so either,
Same effect, same
With
effect.
a shielding.
Colin.
so
Same
either way
effect.
to get the records, you'd have to go through the court?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then, was there a should, that the court shall change to a may in there? It said the court may shield them, or maybe I misheard that.
There are two conditions. So for certain cases, automatic shielding is
Okay.
required. In other instances, a court, upon the request of the tenant, a court may shield under certain conditions.
So the tenant has to move to start the action in order for it to be shielded.
Under what circumstances does it have to? So otherwise it shall be done, but when would a tenant have to ask for it?
If the tenant feels that the court, if the tenant feels that the judgment was not,
I think that, have counsel answer that.
So if the tenant demonstrates by preponderance of the evidence that the tenant exercised the right of redemption, so they paid and stayed, and at least 12 months have passed since their final resolution of processing that pay and stay, a tenant may, the court may shield the record. Also, the district court could determine that there is good cause to shield the court records.
So it was the shall. You said sometimes they shall seal,
Right, so
shield the
the
record.
shall condition would be within 60 days after the final resolution of a failure to pay rent proceeding. The district court shall shield all court records relating to the proceeding if the proceeding did not result in a judgment of possession. So this would be a situation
Oh,
where
okay, I gotcha.
there's a dismissal or they paid in advance, and so there's no need for the action anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready to vote on the amendments? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have
move
it.
the
The
bill as
ayes
amended,
have
Mr. Chair.
And there's a second. Any discussion on the bill as amended? We'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Okay, so opposed are Jacobs, Otto, Siliberti, Naraki, Morgan, Baker. Do you have a little button that allows you to do all the Republicans? Okay, party line, okay, great. We'll do, the bill, the bill passes. House Bill 98. 90, sorry. Sure, who would like to pile on that last bill? Okay, so it is Ruth, Terraza, Holmes, Boyce, Stewart, Foley.
Okay. Ruth, Terrasa, Holmes, Boyce, Stewart, Foley.
Yeah, okay. Okay, House Bill 90. And that would be Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subcommittee recommendation was favorable with amendments. As amended, the bill authorizes the governing body of a county or municipality to regulate through an ordinance invasive bamboo. The bill also authorizes the governing body of a county or municipality to provide for the enforcement of an ordinance adopted under the bill by requiring any damages caused by invasive bamboo be mitigated and establishing a civil fine. Amendment number 1 makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 alters the enabling authority provided under the bill and expands the authority to municipalities and alters language relating to the enforcement of an ordinance adopted under the bill. Move the amendments.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the amendments? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. Bill's before us as amended. Is there a
Second.
motion?
Move the bill as amended, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Delegate Otto is opposed. Any abstentions? The bill carries 22 to 1, right? Yep. You want a pylon? Okay, there is a pylon amendment, and it's going to include Ruth, Terraza, Love. Oh, Kristen's got, okay, Ruth, Terraza, Love, Boyce, Stewart, Lehman, Guyton, anyone else? Okay. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Ruth, Terraza, Love, Boyce, Stewart, Lehman, and Guyton.
Okay, got it. House Bill 98, Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 98 received a favorable report with amendments from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. As amended, the bill specifies that mandatory property insurance for condominiums comprised of detached units must also cover the common elements. It specifies certain provisions that are applicable only to detached or multifamily dwelling units and requires owners of detached units to carry homeowners insurance on the entirety of the unit. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes language exempting condominiums existing detached units from a requirement to include certain information about shared improvements to units on the common elements in the declaration. Amendment number 3 requires owners of detached units to carry homeowners insurance on the entirety of the unit. And number 4 makes clarifying changes. Move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it.
the bill as
ayes
amended,
have it.
Mr.
Bill-
Chair.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill carries unanimously among those present. Which is actually everybody's present, isn't it? Okay. House Bill 105.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 105 received a favorable recommendation from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee, favorable as amended. As amended, the bill provides various provisions of the Maryland Condominium Act and the Maryland Homeowners Association Act related to governing bodies of common condominiums and homeowners associations. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 clarifies the method for calculating when at least one board member who is unaffiliated with the developer or declarant shall be added to the developer or declarant controlled board of directors for a condominium or homeowners association. Amendment number 3 clarifies provisions pertaining to annual meeting requirements in the bill as drafted. Amendment number 4 specifies the method of delivery for certain information to certain members of a board of directors for a condominium or homeowners association. Move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The bill's before us.
Move the bill as amended, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the bill as amended? You're not raising your hand. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Bill carries unanimously. House Bill 435, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As amended, HB 435 came out of subcommittee favorable with amendments.
As amended, HB 435 increases from 3 to 6 the number of speed monitoring systems that Prince George's County may use on Maryland Route 210. It also extends the termination date for the program and establishes annual reporting requirements. Move the amendments.
Any discussion on the amendments? We'll proceed to a vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. The bill's before us is amended. Is there a motion? Is there a second? We have a question or debate. Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not debate, just a question. Didn't we change the name of this road? That's what I thought. We did not change the name. Okay, I know, we had a
Yeah,
bill.
we actually, my understanding is somehow the Department of Transportation looked at our bill and decided that we were only designating it and not renaming it.
Okay,
which
got it.
is bizarre, but we'll
Okay.
talk to
All right.
the new MDOT secretary.
Thank you. I support the bill. I just had that
Okay.
question. Thank you.
All right. Any further debate on the bill? Let's do a roll call.
Vice Chair Stein? Yes. Delegate Holmes? Delegate Love? Yes. Delegate Jacobs? No. Delegate Otto? No. Delegate Silberti? Delegate Terrassa? Yes. Delegate Ruth? Yes. Delegate Long? Yes. Delegate Allen? Yes. Delegate Naraki? No. Delegate Morgan? Yes. I didn't hear that.
Yes.
Delegate Addison? Yes. Delegate Baker? No. Delegate Ziegler? Yes. Delegate Foley? Yes. Delegate Guyton? Yes. Delegate Davis? No. Delegate Lehman? Yes. Delegate Stewart? Yes. Delegate Boyce?
Yes.
Delegate Healy?
Yes.
Chairman votes yes. And that would be 17 to 6. The bill carries. House Bill, what?
Well, Delegate Davis voted no.
Yeah, Delegate Davis voted no. 17-6. House Bill 519. Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 519 came out of the subcommittee favorable. HB 519 authorizes a person to ride a bicycle, play vehicle, or unicycle on a sidewalk or sidewalk area unless prohibited by local ordinance. Basically, it just flips the paradigm. Move the bill.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the bill? There are no amendments to it.
Can they also play musical instruments?
Is Delegate Jacobs going to get his bike back from?
65 years, you're finally clarifying this law. And I'm going looking for my bike.
Okay.
Can we rename it after Jay?
Jay's Law. Yes, go ahead.
Super quick question. I'm sorry. Was it amended? That's part of it. Thank you. Sorry.
No amendments. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those mean people who hate Jay Jacobs can vote no. Okay. Any abstentions? No, it passes unanimously. Okay. House Bill 612. Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Subcommittee recommendation was favorable with amendments. As amended, the bill makes various changes to provisions governing the licensing of tree experts relating to, 1, penalties for engaging in work or business of a tree expert without a license, 2, the ability of a person to physically engage in treatment care or removal of trees for compensation under another person's tree expert license, and 3, insurance requirements applicable to a licensed tree expert. Committee amendments authorizes a person to work under a tree expert license if the person, 1, employs a licensed tree expert who can provide oversight, 2, is employed by a company that employs a licensed tree expert who can provide oversight, or 3, is a licensed tree expert. Move the amendments.
And there's a second. Any discussion on the amendments? Seeing none, we'll vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. Bill's before us is amended.
Move the bill as amended, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the bill? Okay. All those in favor of House Bill 612 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? put your hand up if you're opposed. So that would be Otto, Naraki, Morgan, and Baker.
Usual suspects.
What did you say? Okay. House Bill 625, Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 625 received a favorable recommendation from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee. There are no amendments to this bill, Mr. Chair. But to refresh everyone's memory, this bill makes various changes to the existing appraisal gap from historical redlining financial assistance program within DHCD. It also authorizes DHCD to issue loans and related financial instruments as financial assistance for eligible projects, authorize applicants to apply for the program in a fiscal year that the project is proposed, requiring a qualified project receiving financial assistance to be in compliance with local development and land use plans, and repealing the requirement that on application by specified entities, the program, DHCD must provide financial assistance. Move the bill unamended, Mr. Chair.
And there's a second. Any discussion on the bill? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Any opposed? No, any abstentions? Bill carries unanimously. House Bill 673, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are secondary on this bill. Colleagues, it came over from Appropriations. HB 673 repeals the statutory requirement that the MTA increase its base fare prices every 2 years and every 5 years based on the Consumer Price Index. Move the bill clean, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion on the bill? Okay, we'll, oh yeah, sure. Delegate Otto.
This is raising the fares?
No.
No.
It's repealing.
It's repealing the automatic inflation escalator for the fares. Delegate Guyton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was one of those of us who sat in on that hearing, and there were concerns about the effects on the Transportation Trust Fund of this provision. I don't know if anybody else has those concerns or has looked at the fiscal note on the bill. So I'm not sure where appropriations is on this. Have they already
passed
voted it out? Okay.
Yeah. The primary committee votes first.
Yeah. Just wanted to bring that to the attention of the group. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody? Okay, Morgan.
Yeah, I do concur with Delegate Guyton. The hit by freezing the bill on the Transportation Trust Fund was tremendous. And Transportation Trust Fund revenues decreased by as much as 6.9 million, 7.1, 18.1, 17.6, 19.8. So somebody's going to make up that money somewhere. So.
Okay. Oh, Terraza.
So I'm just going to say that otherwise that's made up for by people who pay fares, who I think can much less shoulder that. So I support this.
Okay. Any other debate? Delegate Boyce.
And thank you, Delegate Guyton, for bringing that up. That is something I did bring up. And Delegate Love, was there any discussion, or I guess, Delegate Guyton, do you know if there's any discussion about how they would make that up, if at all?
Answer?
Yeah,
Mr. Chair?
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I did ask that question at the hearing, and they did not have a plan to make that up.
Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delegate Boyce, if I may, I had the honor to work at the MTA for a couple of years, and we hadn't raised fares for quite a long time. I think it was like 15 to 20 years before this was put in place. So there was not a lot of, I don't know what the right word is, maybe will to do so otherwise without this. And certainly to Delegate Terraza's point, there are definitely riders that have a problem paying those fares, but not all riders are in that same circumstance. We're also talking about MARC train riders as well, other riders that have quite high income levels also. So there's a mix there of income levels.
Delegate Love.
Thank you. Just to answer the question, it does, my little cheat sheet over here, floor report does tell me the revenue loss could be mitigated to the extent MTA uses its general authority to increase fares. So MTA still retains its general authority.
Right. Delegate Boyce.
Thank you for that, Delegate Love, and I think to Delegate Naraki's point, I do, yes, there are various different individuals that pay fare for transportation. I think the biggest issue for me is not an inability or an ability to pay, it's that the fee could potentially increase and the service can continue to be terrible. And so for me, it's always been a question of not paying or paying or not paying, but the fact that we would also increase a fee in general and the service doesn't get any better, therefore we're not paying, or the folks who would otherwise need transportation where it's a necessity would essentially lose out because they're not getting where they need to go, and yet the fee is higher. So I do understand the reasoning for it, but I am worried about the money made up. So thanks for that, Delegate Love.
Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the potential impact on the TTF, but also, and I'm looking at the bill, and it does seem like it's the case that the fares are increased every 2 years to the nearest 10 cents for all transit services, even if inflation, of course, this was several years ago when inflation was low, even if inflation went up by like 0.5%, the bus fares went up by 10 cents. And so it wasn't proportional. So maybe there's a better way to do this that's much more proportional, but I think repealing this is a good thing.
Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to that point also, we're not saying that we're not going to raise fares, it's just saying that it gives MTA the flexibility to adjust to changing circumstances, and so I support this bill also. Thank you.
Okay, and for the record, I'm going to vote for this bill as well. Let's do a roll call.
Vice Chair Stein?
Yes.
Delegate Holmes? Aye. Delegate Love? Yes. Delegate Jacobs? No. Delegate Otto? No. Delegate Silberti? No. Delegate Trassa? Yes. Delegate Roof? Yes. Delegate Long? Yes. Delegate Allen? Yes. Delegate Naraki? No. Delegate Morgan? No. Delegate Addison? Yes. Delegate Baker? No. Delegate Ziegler? Yes. Delegate Foley? Yes. Delegate Guyton? Yes. Delegate Davis? Yes. Delegate Lehman? Yes. Delegate Stewart? Yes. Delegate Boyce? Yes. Delegate Healy? Aye. Chairman?
Chairman votes yes. And it's 17 to 6. Yeah. Okay, the bill passes. House Bill 794. Who has that one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is another bill, House Bill 794 is another bill that we are secondary on with appropriations. And so the subcommittee recommendation is favorable with amendments. Appropriations already passed this. As amended, House Bill 794 establishes the Baltimore Regional Transit Commission. The committee amendments from appropriations alter the composition of the commission, provide for funding for staffing the commission, and clarify the duties of the commission. Move the amendments.
Any discussion on the amendments? Delegate Ruth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and this is something I'm very interested in. I watched the BMC meetings where they did this. And so for number 3 on the amendments, what are the duties that are changed?
That is a great question. Patrick, I'm going to look to you because I actually do not have these amendments in front of me.
Me either.
Okay, they took, they corrected some language, but the big one is that they took out their ability to look over the budget request approvals because they basically don't exist. And then to request and review, instead of review and report information from the annual attainment report. And then, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Hold on, there we go.
And then to, instead of exercising oversight for the public transit system, they're supposed to provide input. These are basically tweaks. And the big one is that They do not have approval authority over their plans. They have comment authority over the plans now.
Next is Delegate Otto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now, it had a substantial fiscal note, I thought. Is that coming out of the Transportation Trust Fund?
Yes.
Thank you.
Delegate Morgan.
Thank you. So, I listened to the last bill about freezing the fares, and Dr. Boyce, you talked about reliability. Now, does this commission work towards trying to find ways to improve reliability? Does it deal, I don't see anything here to do with fares. I just see, like I said, I'm trying to figure out, we want to freeze the fares previously, now we're going to establish a commission to do something. And I'm trying to see if they tie together.
Do you want to answer that? Sure. I know what, got to do it that way. All right, go ahead.
I don't think that they really tie together. Now, basically what this whole idea is behind the Baltimore Regional Transit Commission is that Baltimore, for a long time, Baltimore City has felt like because their bus service and a lot of their transit services are run by MTA, which is a state agency, that they have had insufficient control and ability to direct to the transit in their own city. This commission stems from a recommendation from a local council that I think that Delegate Ruth was mentioning, that essentially recommended the creation of this commission in state law. I think theoretically they would be able to, for example, discuss fares. I mean, that would obviously be within their purview. So to the extent that they would help make fare policy, it's connected to the previous bill. But generally, the commission would be empowered to make all relevant decisions or help make all relevant decisions regarding transit in the city in and around new projects, fares, locations of projects, cancellation of projects, et cetera.
Thank you.
Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would it be possible for us to separate that last part of the amendments out and vote on that separately?
Sure.
Thank
You can
you.
separate that amendment.
Thank you.
Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So now I'm getting confused. Delegate Stewart, how does the amendments change the authority or the duties of the commission? Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
They alter the duties, yes.
They altered the duties, and how does that line up with other regional transit commissions in the state, like in the Washington area and so forth? Is it the same?
Well, that's an interesting question. No, it's not, I doubt it's exactly the same, but it's probably similar. I didn't read the WMATA board's duties, but the interesting thing is that apparently of the top 50 size-wise transit systems in the country, Baltimore's the only one that doesn't have a governance board. It's run by the secretary and the governor.
Right, yeah, no, I mean, I support the concept.
In that sense, it is mirroring Washington.
Okay, I just want, my question was specifically about the duties, what the amendment
I don't know
changed.
what the duties of WMATA are.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to clarify, and I think Delegate Ruth was getting at this too, anyone who's not familiar, the idea behind this authority, as I understand it, is it's for the Baltimore region. So it's not just the city, it includes Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, I believe, and I think Howard County.
Correct.
So it gives buy-in to not just the mayor, but also to the county executives from those respective jurisdictions. In that way, it's similar to WMATA, but different, I guess, because we're dealing with different county jurisdictions rather than state and District of Columbia.
Okay. Delegate Terraza.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. But it sounds like it's very different as amended because it's just sort of an advisory group now. That's what that's, I guess, what Delegate Foley was asking. Isn't so much what the specific topics are, but whether they have any authority at all in this as amended.
Anyone care to?
Yeah, I don't have the amendments in front of me, so I don't think I was not given the amendments, but I guess Patrick is looking over them. Patrick, can you?
I'm reading
Oh,
through
okay,
it. I mean, it's a list of like originally 15 things, it's down to 12.
Right,
They review and comment on the capital needs inventory report, review plans and services in the region to ensure coordination, review and approve any update to the capital, Central Maryland Regional Transit Plan, excuse me. So that's authority. As I mentioned earlier, they review and comment on the operating and capital budgets. That has changed from review and approve. So in that sense, that's the biggest one in my view, is it does, take away a little bit of authority there. And then review and comment, that was in there originally, service change reports and major service change proposals.
so they only had authority with respect to one of those? I'm sorry, it was hard to follow because I don't have the amendment in front of me. There's one they have authority over?
Send the amendments out.
I thought the amendments all went out. I guess they didn't.
I didn't get any, but,
There's an interlineated copy. At least I have an interlineated copy.
but when,
You don't have the interlineated copy?
you do?
Well,
And I apologize if I just didn't see it. I may just not have seen that email.
I'll read through it if you want.
go ahead, read through it.
Give me the,
Because I don't want to have it, I want to vote on it right now, so go ahead and read through it.
okay. The commission's duties are to organize and establish policies and procedures for the operation of the commission. That's internal for them. Including conflict of interest standards and that prohibit a commissioner from having any inappropriate financial or non-financial interest in a matter over which the commission has jurisdiction. No later than 6 months after the commission first meets, adopt bylaws, meet at least quarterly, and accept public comments during the meetings and at all times electronically. Include the quarterly agenda, each of the following topics at least once each year. Capital needs inventory report, the CTP, priorities and initial budget requests. The amendment strike any budget request approvals. Any update on the Central Maryland Regional Transit Plan. Keep minutes of the meetings, post all minutes publicly on the website. Provide input and engage in advocacy for the Baltimore Region Public Transit Systems maintained by the administration. Request and review information from the annual attainment report and the administration concerning the attainment of the administration's goals, including performance goals and metrics. Evaluate any other measures of the performance of the Baltimore Region Transit System and issue written recommendations concerning how the results of the commission's review and evaluation should influence the administration's priorities in future years.
So it makes it into really an advisory board.
It does have some authority, though.
Some authority, but mostly an advisory board.
The big one, again, was the authority to approve the budgets was
Right.
reduced to comment on the budgets.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Baby steps. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry for the third bite at the apple. I just wondered if I could clarify the question about whether it was supposed to be similar to an authority that was asked. So the Baltimore Metropolitan Council is a council of leaders in the Baltimore region, the county and city leaders, and they had a transit governance and funding study which has been running for the last year or so, and the study just issued its series of recommendations. This was one of their recommendations. It was not intended, they stopped short of recommending a full transit authority, which would have the full authority over the region, but recommended a commission which would have some influence in being able to influence the direction of transit in the region. And they also, I think, recommended studying possibly transitioning that into a full transit authority. Thank you.
Delegate Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say for the record, pretty much anything that comes out of this commission will be better than what we have now, which is nothing.
Okay, Delegate Ruth, you wanted to separate something?
The amendments about changing the duties of the commission, is that possible?
Well, it's all part of one amendment.
It's all part of one amendment. Okay. On the amendments. How many amendments are there? Is it just one big one?
There's a technical and one big one.
Okay.
I don't think anyone moved it. Move the amendments.
Okay, is there a second? I guess we've discussed it pretty thoroughly. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Delegate Ruth is opposed, and Delegate, okay, so, and there's a second. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Roll call.
Vice Chair Stein? Yes. Delegate Holmes? Aye. Delegate Love? Yes. Delegate Jacobs? No. Delegate Otto? No. Delegate Silverti?
No.
Delegate Trassa? Yes. Delegate Ruth? Yes. Delegate Long?
Yes.
Delegate Allen?
Yes.
Delegate Naraki?
Yes.
Delegate Morgan?
That was a no.
Delegate Addison? Yes. Delegate Baker? No. That was a nay.
That was a no.
Delegate Ziegler? Yes. Delegate Foley? Yes. Delegate Guyton? Yes. Delegate Davis? Yes. Delegate Lehman? Yes. Delegate Stewart?
Yes.
Delegate Boyce? Yes. Delegate Healy? Aye.
Chairman votes yes. And that would yield us 18 to 5.
So Naraki voted yes.
Yeah, okay. The bill carries. House Bill 806, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 806 came out of subcommittee with a favorable recommendation. It authorizes an autonomous vehicle converter to sell, transfer, lease, offer for sale, or resell without obtaining a vehicle dealer's license. It applies only to motor vehicles intended for commercial or industrial use. Move the bill.
Second.
Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill carries unanimously. House Bill 833, Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 833 received a favorable report from the subcommittee, primarily only because it has a fantastic sponsor.
Otherwise, it's worthless.
Just to give you just to remind you what it does, the bill authorizes the governing documents of a homeowners association to include provisions prohibiting a lot owner from voting at a meeting if the HOA has recorded a statement of lien of a lot owner's property and the amount necessary to release the lien has not been paid at the time of the meeting. Move the bill unamended, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion on the bill? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor of House Bill 833 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill carries unanimously. House Bill 843, Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subcommittee recommendation is favorable, no amendments. This emergency bill establishes the Baltimore Regional Water Governance Task Force to study approaches to water and wastewater governance in the Baltimore region. Move the bill.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the bill? Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if this should go to Vice Chair Stein or someone else, but I was just curious about the composition of the membership. I was curious why there was a different number of seats for Baltimore County versus Baltimore City. I recall during testimony that Baltimore County now has more ratepayers participating inside of the water system, so I was just curious about that.
All I can say, Delegate, is that the composition of the task force was negotiated between Baltimore County and Baltimore City, and both the county executive and mayor are fully supportive of it.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Delegate Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, I wanted to clarify, there's not been any amendments to the composition of the board thus far, as for labor being a part of the board?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Boyce.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I also wanted to clarify that Baltimore City is the asset owner, and so that's also potentially another reason why they have more seats at the table.
Any further questions or discussion? Roll call.
Vice Chair Stein? Yes. Delegate Holmes? Aye. Delegate Love? Yes. Delegate Jacobs. Delegate Otto. Delegate Silberti. Delegate Tarassa. Delegate Ruth. Delegate Long. Delegate Allen. Delegate Naraki. Delegate Morgan. Delegate Addison. Delegate Baker. Delegate Ziegler. Delegate Foley. Delegate Guyton. Delegate Davis. Delegate Lehman. Delegate Stewart. Delegate Boyce. Delegate Healy. Chairman.
Chairman votes yes, and boy, that was close. Good thing we had a roll call. Okay, the bill passes unanimously. House Bill 844.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill received a favorable report from the Housing and Real Property Subcommittee with no amendments. And just to remind the committee, the bill requires the Department of Housing and Community Development to establish and maintain a website that provides information on the current rights and responsibilities of individuals living in a common ownership community. DHCD must make publicly available on the website a hyperlink to a website for each local COC program in the state and information on the statewide legislation enacted by prior legislation session regarding the rights and responsibilities of individuals living in a COC. Move the bill, Mr. Chair.
Second.
I'm sorry, was there an amendment? Or
Negative.
No amendment, and there's a second. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill carries unanimously. House Bill 848. Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The subcommittee recommendation is favorable with amendments. This emergency bill establishes a pilot program within MDE to authorize the regulated use of reclaimed water as a source for drinking water treatment facilities. Amendment number 1 is technical. Number 2 renames the pilot program and makes a number of technical changes, increases the length of time for which reclaimed water must be held in an environmental buffer before intake to a drinking water treatment facility, but authorizes a permit applicant to request a reduction to this time frame under certain conditions, and authorizes MDE to renew the potable reuse permit after termination of the pilot program under certain circumstances. Move the amendments.
Second.
Okay, on the amendment, any discussion? Okay, we'll vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. The bill's before us is amended. And there's been a second. Any discussion on the bill? I have to say, I think this is a fantastic technology. More places should be doing this. All those in favor signify by saying. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Delegate Tarassa is voting against. Any abstentions? Okay, the bill carries 22-1. House Bill 849, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 849 came out of the subcommittee favorable. It requires a law enforcement agency to issue a warning for a first violation captured by a school bus monitoring camera if first, the violation occurred on a road that has 4 or more lanes of traffic, and second, the motor vehicle was traveling in the opposite direction of the school bus. Move the bill.
Second.
No amendments? No. Okay, any discussion on the bill? Seeing as there's none of that, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Ooh, Jacobs and Otto and Morgan and Baker. Morgan and Baker. Okay, the bill carries 19-4. Okay, House Bill 957. Love.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 957 came out of subcommittee unfavorable. It would require a driver of a vehicle traveling slower than the general speed of traffic on any roadway to drive in the right-hand lane or lanes if the driver determines it is practicable to do so. Move the unfavorable motion.
Okay, the motion is unfavorable. Delegate Morgan.
Yeah, I want to, can I change the vote, or do I come back later?
No, it's too late.
Okay, thank you.
We don't do that.
Card laid?
Card played. Nate Exum. All right, any discussion on this unfavorable motion?
Sing the song.
Yes, Delegate Lehman.
So I would like to have seen this information be put into the driver's ed curriculum. I thought that was the best feature of this bill. I'm sorry we didn't figure out a way to save that part of it. I think it's important, and the fact that it's not addressed at all, I think, is problematic. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of the unfavorable motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The unfavorable motion carries unanimously. The dreaded towing bill, House Bill 1002. Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and a huge round of applause to Delegate Foley. The subcommittee recommendation was favorable with amendments. As amended, HB 1002 establishes a committee on rate setting and complaint resolution for police-initiated towing within the Department of State Police to recommend approved rates for police-initiated towing and recovering services and to perform other duties. Move the amendments.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the amendments? Okay, we'll vote on the amendments. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes have it. Bill is before us as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the bill that is the bane of my existence? Yeah, I know. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill carries unanimously. Good job, Delegate Foley. Okay, House Bill 1049, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1049 came out of the hardest working subcommittee, I just have to say. Favorable. It requires the MTA to submit an annual report on assaults on MTA, WMATA, and other local public transit operators. Move the bill.
Second.
Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous, carries unanimously in the committee. House Bill 1207.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
1207.
hold on, pardon me. Oh, you want to pile on the? There's no, there was no
yes,
amendment. Yeah.
No, on the MTA, there was no amendment.
Yep, okay. 1207.
Yes, 1207 also came out clean from the committee. 1207 prohibits a motorcycle passenger from riding on a seat at the rear of the operator if the passenger cannot position their feet firmly on the footrests while seated. Move the amendment. Move the bill. There are no amendments.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this bill against short people? Randy Newman is smiling somewhere. Randy Newman's smiling somewhere. All right. All those in favor of the favorable motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill carries unanimously. Okay. We now have a bunch of bills that have been withdrawn by sponsor. I'm going to read them all off. If somebody wants a separate vote on any of them, let me know. 94. By Delegate Lehman, 617 by Delegate Schmidt, 842 by Delegate Greist, 1007 Montgomery County Delegation, 1036 Washington County Delegation, 1046 Delegates Greist and Ciliberti, 1056 Delegate Queen, 1086 Delegate Boyce, 1088 Delegate Bridges, and 1170 Delegate Adams. Any desire to separate any of these bills out for a separate vote? Yes, Delegate Ciliberti, which one? 842? You want to separate that one? Okay, we'll separate that. Now, these are all, the motion for all the others is going to be motion unfavorable withdrawn by sponsor. So, is there a second?
Second.
What? Oh, did you have, oh, I'm sorry. Yikes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not a request to separate out the bill, but I would like to just make a comment on House Bill 94 that I did write a letter of withdrawal on. I am doing that only because the Senate sponsor pulled the bill, wrote a letter of withdrawal. There was no communication. I wasn't aware till after it had been done, so I was told I have no choice but to do that.
Who's the sponsor?
Well, I'd rather not say,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah. She expressed regret later, but it was too late. It was done, and I was told I had no choice but to withdraw mine. So I will plan on bringing it back next year, but thank you.
Sounds good. Okay, so on all the bills excepting for 842, the motion is unfavorable, withdrawn by sponsor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Those are all withdrawn. And now let's turn to House Bill 842. The motion is unfavorable, withdrawn by sponsor. Is there a second? Any discussion on this? Okay, we'll vote. The motion's unfavorable, withdrawn by sponsor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Barry? Barry is opposed to the unfavorable motion. Okay, any announcements before we break for the weekend? Any announcements? Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have, hang on, this moment in history, if I may.
Oh, you've got the moment in history. Oh,
If I
faking us
may.
out.
I would like the body to know, I wasn't ready for us to be ready yet. I would like the body to know that 10 years ago and 8 months, a colleague of ours ran in the Woodstock 5K in Anniston, Alabama, and came in 585th. So a big congratulations to Delegate Stewart.
Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is not an announcement, but a question. You announced our committee dinner, but I was wondering when we were going to choose names for
Oh, I
our
think,
swap.
Trish, is that available yet?
I've begun shopping, so
I can do it up real quick.
soon.
Yeah, she'll do up the little pieces of paper with our names on it real quick. Okay. Any other announcements or questions or diatribes? Okay, in that case, have a great weekend. Did a lot of good work here. We're dismissed. Adjourned, not dismissed.